Lemmings. There are a few more endearing games than the first two Lemmings titles. A brilliant little concept where you save a bunch of cute blue-jumpered and thoroughly impressionable green-haired folk from a rather embarrassing death. The games were widely hailed as masterpieces, they were a huge success, and the folks who made them went on to do, well, something totally different. They would be an absolute prime top candidate for a proper, good old-fashioned Kim Justice retrospective. Well, if it wasn't for one little problem, that being my absolute shitness at the games. Seriously, I am so terrible at Lemmings. I'd do it, but I worry that I'd barely be able to show any of the bloody games off. Annoying. For now though, I can look at my favourite game in the series, which actually isn't the original, it's the sequel. Lemmings 2 The Tribes, a 1993 game shown here in its Amiga form, complete with a nice intro and everything. Lemmings as a series is kind of remarkable for a complete lack of straight sequels throughout its whole existence, with the possible exception of this. Lemmings 2 takes the same formula as the original, only bigger and better. In case you don't know that formula, it goes like this. Lemmings fall into a stage, and if you leave them then, well, they'll go about their business, which is just walking straight forward, ignorant of any walls in their way, or pitfalls, or traps. So yeah, they'll probably die. You help them out by assigning jobs to them and creating a path for them to get to the level's exit. Whether it's a blocker stopping the Lems from falling to their death, or a builder who'll bridge a gap, or miners ready to scoop the ground, they'll never complain, they'll just do it, even if it's a completely one-headed blunder. Never mind, if things do go wrong, you can always nuke the hell out of the stage and try again. Life is a pretty fickle thing when you're a lemming. Lemmings 2 adds a bunch more to the original formula. The tribes portion consists of 12 separate tribes of lemmings, which is basically an excuse for DMA design to provide themed stages. There's sports lemmings, medieval lemmings, shadow lemmings, space lemmings, beach lemmings, and many more. The other thing is that there's a whole lot of new skills for the lemmings to take on. Most levels are still based around the 8 core skills, that being climber, floater, bomber, blocker, builder, basher, miner and digger, but there's a few neat variations on these themes that can be useful too, making for a grand total of 51 new skills. There are of course some more spectacular skills that are more showy than anything else, but can still be cool to screw around with, things like the Icarus Winds or the almighty Super Lem. Still, they can be useful when you've completely screwed up a stage and you'd like to get at least one lemming out of the bloody mess. However, one change in the tribes is that while each tribe only has 10 levels associated with it, they start the first level with 60 lemmings and never get any more. So if one lemming survives a level, then you only have that one lemming for the next level, and the next level and so on. Which of course can potentially make the whole string of missions unwinnable. Therefore, replaying stages is more important than ever to try and get as many lemmings to the exit as possible. New skills do give the game a little bit of a sandbox feel at times. If a stage is particularly simple, it can again be a fun time to just screw around with those skills, play around with the fan too and see how they work. Who knows, maybe that can be used more practically at a later stage. Of course, you'll always have just a select few of those skills for each stage and a limited number at that, but that's hardly a bad thing. It certainly allows for a lot of variation in the way levels are designed, with plenty of new additions to the formula, like the odd contraption here and there that you can control. No matter how you get those lemmings to the goal, it's always satisfying to finally come up with a neat solution that results in as little carnage as possible. Of course, this doesn't happen all that much for me, but there are a few levels that I can deal with quite nicely. And really, even the complete screw-ups are funny enough in Lemmings to the point where you can always happily dust yourself off and try again, or at least try ever more ludicrous ways to try and save a totally lost cause. Still, the cuteness and awesome presentation is a major part of Lemmings for me, and Tribes gets it absolutely right, adding a whole lot more to the classic Lemmings formula but not over-egging it. All the different themed stages are great, and really look fantastic on the Amiga to boot. Tons of colour and cool little designs, the sort of thing you could almost picture being on your coffee table. Plenty of cool music too, and plenty of opportunities for little references, like the music in the space stage, a rather bouncy rendition of the Blue Danube that's not only a bit 2001, but also references the Amiga's version of the Almighty Elite. But really, the stars of the whole show are the Lemmings themselves. Amazing to think that they were just the result of some idle screwing about in deluxe paint one day. They're so cute, they could have sold millions as little plushies or something in another world. Alas, the Lemmings never quite made it to that sort of level, and DMA Design were indeed set for another course entirely that would see them leave the world of cuteness entirely behind. But even if it wasn't for that whole Grand Theft Auto thing, Lemmings would have done a hell of a lot to secure Lee Scott's legacy all on its own. It was such a good series, and absolutely brilliant for the first two games in particular. More than that, it was a whole new type of puzzle game, one that ended up influencing a whole lot of things to come. It probably deserves a bit more than a 6-minute or so video, and perhaps that'll happen one day. But for now, this is just a bit of a snapshot into the series at its peak, and for me the sequel should be just as acclaimed as that almighty original. It's an absolute diamond, one that, unlike the affably rubbish denizens who occupy it, will never absent-mindedly fall off a cliff and into oblivion. See you tomorrow!